Sutra. She saw an especial fine image of the first come one enlightenment flower Samadhi self-mastery king in one of the monasteries. As the Brahman woman beheld the honored countenance, she became doubly respectful while thinking to herself, Buddhas are called greatly enlightened ones who have attained all wisdom. If this Buddha were in the world, I could ask him where my mother went after she died. He would certainly know. Commentary. She, the Brahman woman, saw an especially fine image of the first come one enlightenment flower Samadhi self-mastery king in one of the monasteries. As the Brahman woman beheld the honored countenance, the look of awesome virtue replete with 32 hallmarks and the 80 secondary characteristics of this clay statue, she became doubly respectful while thinking to herself, Buddhas are called greatly enlightened ones who have attained all wisdom, which consists of three types: the wisdom of the varieties of ways, the wisdom of all dharmas, and the wisdom of all modes. If this Buddha were in the world, I could ask him where my mother went after she died. He would certainly know where my mother went. I have a question for everyone to ponder. Although we should not think while cultivating, but everybody consider this question. Did people come to this world to eat so that we live, or do we live to eat? Sutra. The Brahman woman then wept for a long time as she gazed longingly upon the first come one. Suddenly a voice in the air said, "O weeping worthy woman, do not be so sorrowful. I shall now show you where your mother has gone." The Brahman woman placed her palms together as she addressed space, saying, "Which virtuous divinity is comforting me in my grief? Ever since the day I lost my mother, I have held her in memory day and night, but there is nowhere I can go to ask about the realm of her rebirth." The voice in the air spoke to the woman again. "I am the one whom you behold and worship, the former enlightenment flower Samadhi self-mastery king first come one. Because I have seen that your regard for your mother is double that of ordinary beings, I have come to show you where she is." Commentary. The Brahman woman thought the Buddha is the wisest enlightened being. Unfortunately, the Buddha has entered Nirvana now. If the Buddha were in the world and my mother passed away, I would ask the Buddha where my mother became reborn. He would definitely know. The Brahman woman then lowered her head and wept for a long time, or just a certain period of time that is not necessarily fixed. As she gazed longingly upon the first come one, she could not bear to leave the Buddha. For instance, there is no rope, but now it seems as if there is a rope that tied her to the image, which is a longing. She did not want to leave the image of first come one enlightenment flower Samadhi self-mastery king. Suddenly a voice in the air said, "This is a time when the Brahman woman is concentrated in body and mind without other false thoughts, other than the longing for Buddha and the thought of missing the Buddha nature. Her mind could be said to be pure at this time." At this time a voice came out of nowhere. What kind of sound was it? "Oh, weeping worthy woman, although your mother committed offenses, you have your good rules. This is why she was called a worthy woman. Do not be so sorrowful. Do not cry so hard. Do not be too sad. I shall now show you where your mother has gone. Let me tell you where your mother went. Do not cry." The Brahman woman placed her palms together, faced the sky as she addressed space, saying, "Which virtuous divinity is comforting me in my grief? Which Bodhisattva is this? Which immortal is this? You are so kind. You relieve me of sadness with such compassion. You comfort me so that I am not sad or worried. Virtue is a kind of compassionate virtue. Ever since the day I lost my mother, when she died, I have held her in memory day and night. I thought about my mother day and night, but there is nowhere I can go to ask, why do I miss my mother? My mother gave me this body, so I should be filial to her. My mother passed away before I fulfilled my filial obligations. This is why I am especially sad. Actually, the trees wish to be still, but the wind does not stop. The children wish to care for their parents, but they are gone. The trees want to stop swinging for a while, but wind blows them back and forth. The trees wish to be still, but the wind does not stop. The children wish to care their parents, but they are gone. Just when I want to take care of my mother and be filial, repaying the kindness of my parents, they are gone. So it is said, Father, Mother, your kindness is so extremely great. It is higher than the heavens. The grace of our parents is higher than the heavens and thicker than earth. I am very ashamed and sad that I was not filial to my mother. I do not have a place to ask about the realm of her rebirth. I do not know whether my mother went to the heavens or fell into the hells. Strangely enough, when she spoke to space, the voice in the air spoke to the Brahman woman again. I am the one whom you behold and worship, the spiritual being who relieved you of your sadness and worries, the former enlightenment flower samadhi self-mastery king thirst come one. Because I have seen that your regard for your mother, how much you miss your mother, is double that of ordinary beings. Why is the Brahman woman able to move the former enlightenment flower samadhi self-mastering thirst come one to speak to her from space? This line of text makes it clear that it is because I see that you miss your mother more than ordinary people. For instance, other people miss their father or mother 100%, while you miss your mother 200%, double the average. You are so sincere that the way you think about your parent is different than most living beings. I have come to show you where she is, even though I have entered Nirvana. You have moved me so much that I have come to tell you. Sutra. The Brahman woman suddenly lunged toward the voice she was hearing and then fell, injuring herself severely. Those around her supported and attended to her, and after a long time she was revived. Then she addressed the air, saying, I hope the Buddha will be compassionate and quickly tell me into what realm my mother has been reborn. I am now near death myself. Commentary. When the Brahman woman heard the voice in the air tell her that he is the former enlightenment flower samadhi self-mastery king thirst come one, she suddenly launched toward the voice she was hearing. She was very nervous. She seemed insane as she jumped toward the sky without regard for anything else. She heard the voice in the sky and wanted to get there to see the former enlightenment flower samadhi self-mastery king thirst come one. She launched into the air and hit herself. This Brahman woman must not know any kung fu or other martial arts. And she then fell, injuring herself severely. She broke her arms and legs. The four limbs are in segments. The arms are in 2 or 3 segments, while the legs are in a few segments. Her limbs were hurt, either broken or paralyzed. Those around her supported and attended to her. Perhaps at that time she had relatives and friends with her who went with her to make offerings to enlightenment flower samadhi self-mastery king thirst come one. Perhaps these were monastics at the temple, such as bhikshunis who saw this woman fall. Those next to her helped her up, and after a long time she was revived. Since she fell so hard, she lost consciousness. She was revived after a while, waking up as if from a sleep. When her head cleared, she still remembers how she launched into the air. Then she addressed the air, saying, "I hope the Buddha will be compassionate. My only wish now is for the enlightenment flower samadhi self-mastery king thirst come one to be compassionate and pity me, and quickly tell me into what realm my mother has been reborn. Where did my mother become reborn? Why does she need to be told so quickly? I am now near death myself. Having felt like this, my body and mind are about to die soon." Sutra. Enlightenment flower samadhi self-mastery king first come one told the worthy woman, "After you make your offerings, return home quickly, sit upright and concentrate on my name. You will soon know where your mother has been reborn." The Brahman woman bowed to the Buddha and returned home. The memory of her mother sustained her as she sat upright, recollecting enlightenment flower samadhi self-mastery king first come one. After doing so for a day and night, she suddenly saw herself beside a sea whose waters seethed and bubbled. Many evil beasts with iron bodies flew swiftly back and forth above the sea. She saw billions of men and women bobbing up and down in the sea, being fought over, seized and eaten by the evil beasts. She saw yakshas with different shapes. Some had many hands, some many eyes, some many legs, some many heads. With their sharp fangs, they drove the offenders on towards the evil beasts. Commentary. Enlightenment flower samadhi self-mastery king first come one told the worthy Brahman woman, "After you make your offerings, return home quickly, because you have hurt yourself badly due to the fall. What should you do once you get home? Sit upright, even though you broke your arms and legs, and concentrate on my name, enlightenment flower samadhi self-mastery king first come one. You will soon know where your mother has been reborn." The Brahman woman bowed to the Buddha and returned home. The memory of her mother sustained her, since she was so sincere in thinking about her mother. As she sat upright, recollecting enlightenment flower samadhi self-mastery king first come one, she sat up so straight she forgot her pain and her broken arms and legs. After doing so for a day and a night, she was not kneeling. She sat for 24 hours, simply reciting the Buddha's name and nothing else. At that time, she suddenly saw herself beside the sea. This was not a dream. This was a result of her utmost sincerity, her spiritual nature, her consciousness, and her soul. In general, all these terms are one. The spiritual nature is the eighth consciousness in the individual. Since the Brahman woman sat for a long time, she forgot her pain and stopped everything except that one thought of the Buddha. Sincere in this thought, the eighth consciousness left her body. She suddenly saw herself by a sea. A meditator may see certain states because the eighth consciousness leaves the body. If your 5 eyes are open, you will see ghosts, spirits, bodhisattvas, and Buddhas. You will not otherwise. Cultivated spiritual nature. Eighth consciousness contains the 5 eyes within. If the spiritual nature leaves the physical body, the 5 eyes are open so that they can see different states. This holy Brahman woman must have cultivated for a long time, because even though the 5 eyes on her physical body did not open, her eighth consciousness left the body so that she can all of a sudden see herself by the sea whose waters seethed and bubbled. This sea water is not cool but boiling hot, surging upwards. How many evil beasts are in this ocean? Never mind with that. Just know that there are many and not few. With solid iron bodies, these evil beasts flew swiftly back and forth above the sea, chasing one another. She saw billions of men and women bobbing up and down in the sea, being fought over, seized, and eaten by the evil beasts. What do these evil beasts do? They eat these men and women, such as swallowing one man or one woman in one mouthful. These most ferocious evil beasts have big mouths and big stomachs. She saw yakshas or speedy ghosts that fly and run swiftly with different shapes. What do they look like? Some had many hands, some many eyes, some many legs, some many heads. One yaksha ghost may have several dozen arms. One extremely ugly and vicious yaksha ghost may have 2 arms but many eyes. One may have relatively few arms and eyes but many legs and feet. One yaksha ghost may have many heads whose mouths open up like a tub that can swallow several people with one gulp. Its teeth are like swords and knives, with their sharp fangs that slice as quickly as swords. They drove the offenders on toward the evil beasts. What do yaksha ghosts do? The evil beasts look for things to eat. Since people are smarter, they sometimes run far away from evil beasts. Escaping though, they run straight into a yaksha ghost who blocks you so that you have nowhere to run and you are chased by enemies from behind. You have no route of escape and nowhere to go. You cannot even go and spend a night at a friend's house. Sutra. Or the yakshas themselves set the offenders and twisted their heads and feet together into shapes so horrible that no one would dare even look at them for long. During that time, the Brahman woman was naturally without fear due to the power of recollecting the Buddha. A ghost king named Poisonless bowed his head in greeting and said to the worthy woman, "Welcome, O Bodhisattva. What conditions bring you here?" The Brahman woman asked the ghost king, "What is this place?" Poisonless replied, "We are on the western side of the great Iron Ring Mountain, and this is the first of the seas that encircle it." The worthy woman said, "I have heard that the hells are within the Iron Ring. Is that actually so?" Poisonless answered, "Yes, the hells are here." The worthy woman asked, "How have I now come to the hells?" Poisonless answered, "If it wasn't awesome spiritual strength that brought you here, then it was the power of karma. Those are the only 2 ways that anyone gets here." The worthy woman asked, "Why is this water seething and bubbling, and why are there so many offenders and evil beasts?" Poisonless replied, "These are beings of Jambudvipa who did evil deeds. They have just died and passed through 49 days without any surviving relatives doing any meritorious deeds on their behalf to rescue them from their distress. Besides that, during their lives, they themselves didn't plant any good causes. Now, their own karma calls forth these hells. Their first task is to cross this sea." Commentary. All the yaksha and evil beasts themselves said the offenders. They beat and said as if eagles catching chickens with their claws. These evil beasts and yakshas cooperate and capture the offenders and twist their heads and feet together. Yakshas may do this to evil beasts may do this to yakshas, and evil beasts and yakshas may do this to people. In general, all of them can be twisted so they look really awful. They are twisted into millions of different kinds of shapes so horrible that typically no one would dare even look at them for long. During that time, the Brahman woman was naturally without fear, due to the power of recollecting the Buddha enlightenment flower samadhi self-mastery king third come one. A ghost king, one of the leaders among the ghosts, named Poisonless, bowed his head in greeting to the Brahman woman and said to the worthy woman, "Welcome, O Kayatit Bodhisattva. What conditions bring you here?" The Brahman woman asked the ghost king, "What is this place? I don't know how I got here either." Poisonless replied, "We are on the western side of the great Iron Ring Mountain, and this is the first of the seas on the west side that encircle it." The worthy woman said to the ghost king, "I have heard that the hells are within the Iron Ring. Is that actually so? Is there really the hells? How come people do not believe there are the hells?" Poisonless answered, "Yes, the hells are here. The hells really do exist. It is not imagined." The worthy woman asked, "How have I now come to the hells?" Poisonless, the ghost king answered, "If it was an awesome spiritual strength that brought you here, then it was the power of karma. You can come here due to two factors. One, you have the awesomeness, the spiritual power, or the virtue. Two, you fall into the hells because of the power of your offense karmas. These are the only two ways that anyone gets here. If it was not for one of two things, one's awesomeness or karma, one will not come to the hells." The worthy Brahman woman asked, "Why is this water seething and bubbling, and why are there so many offenders cooking in this boiling water and so many evil beasts?" Poisonless replied Brahman woman, "These are beings of Jambudvipa, which means victorious goat, for the reason that leaves on the Jambu Nanda Suvana trees fall into the hells and turn into gold. This kind of gold is most supreme and special, so it is called victorious gold. Our world is in southern Jambudvipa. Beings in southern Jambudvipa who, by merely stirring a thought, did evil deeds. They have just died and passed through 49 days, 7 weeks. To help a deceased individual, we must do some merit for him within 49 days after his death, so that he may benefit. During that period of time, the offense karma of the deceased has not been confirmed yet, but after 49 days, their karma is determined. The way the court decisions have been made, they cannot change anymore. If we were to recite sutras or mantras for the deceased, we can save them so that they reap the benefits. After 49 days, the offense of the deceased is just, so there is still merit from recitation of sutras, but they get very little merit, the impact of which is tiny, though not completely nil. Without any surviving relatives doing any meritorious deeds on their behalf to rescue them from their distress, to save evil-doing living beings from their suffering. Besides that, during their lives, they themselves didn't plant any good causes, didn't do any good deeds. Now, their own karma calls forth these hells. Their first task is to cross this sea. Naturally, they must first go to this great sea of suffering to endure the karmic retribution they deserve.